Yeah, great. So we are live on our Facebook page, and from there, I'll be sharing it in the communities. So hello everyone. I know it's a weekday and it's quite a bit late at night, but we do have a lot of audience at that time, so it's always a preferable time for engaging in some sort of learning. We have Laura today with us. And the topic we are going to be discussing today is 5 secrets to connect and influence others. Laura is a wonderful professional. She has over 20 years of experience. She has worked with a lot of different global companies. She's a wonderful trainer and has some really great insights for you to learn from her. And feel free to drop questions. You can drop them to my inbox. You can drop them on Facebook comments. You can send them to the community, whichever works for you, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So over to you, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So hi, everyone. I'm Laura, and I'm the lead trainer at activatemycareerlive.com. And we actually help professionals who feel like their careers are plateauing or not progressing fast enough to really elevate themselves in the workplace. Now, I'm going to be talking today about the 5 rules of influence. And actually, my background, I know everyone here is related to tech. And actually, my background is tech. Tech is very close to my heart. I actually started out as a programmer, as a coder, way back before programming was even, it was before Google, it was before it was cool. And back then I used to be in a sort of room in the office with all the other coders where no one else could see us and nobody else could communicate between us. And actually there were 2 things that made me different. Number one was I was female, and there were literally no females back then in the tech industry. And number 2 is I could communicate. I could communicate with other human beings. And actually that was quite rare as well as being female. And that meant that I actually got put into management positions very early on in my career and was running big digital projects very early on in my career. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of background to tell you a bit about some of that experience that I have, and then I'm going to get on to the 5 rules of influence. But there is one meeting invite I remember arriving in my inbox, and it was a meeting invite that was sent by my boss, and I had to be in his office at 2 o'clock. And I walked in, and I sort of, sat uncomfortably on the chair. And when you're sort of trying to look cool and look normal, but actually you feel a bit like an uncomfortable teenager, and you don't really know where to put your hands, and the nerves are swelling in your stomach. And I could sort of feel my heart thudding as I was sitting there waiting for him to start talking. And so he starts talking, and he says to me that they're making redundancies. And he's very sorry, but he was sorry that it was going to come to this, but he was going to let me and 20 other of my colleagues go. And he had to make a decision between me and the other project director, who was a guy called James. And he decided to keep James because of his contacts in the industry. Have you ever had one of those moments where it just takes you a little bit of time to kind of realize what someone's just said? And first you're sort of like confused, and then the realization starts sinking in what they just said. And I got this, that sort of sick feeling at the bottom of your stomach. And when you understand what they just said, that sort of confusion turns to realization, and you don't really understand what's happened. And it's like, I've put all this effort in. I've worked so hard to get the project delivered, the digital project delivered. I don't understand. Now, this was just before Christmas, and over the Christmas period, I was at my parents' house, And everyone around me was celebrating in my house then. But actually, I felt quite desperate and confused. And I was thinking, why did the senior team want to keep James and not me? Because I was the one who was responsible for the project. I was responsible for the delivery of the project. I was the one that understood the code. I was the one that had the tech experience. Why did they want to keep him and not me? I mean, James, he'd literally rock up to the office, and at 10 a.m. he'd sort of turn up, he'd have a coffee, he'd do a few emails, he'd take a few calls, and then he'd start sort of wandering around the office. He'd drop in with our boss, he'd drop in and have a chat and a coffee, and he'd talk to the other senior leadership team in their offices. And you know those people, right? The ones that just seem to get away with doing less work, but no one seems to mind. No one seems to mind or care. Now, as I was walking around my parents' garden, and I was sort of thinking, what's the difference? Why did they go with him? It suddenly dawned on me. It suddenly dawned on me what James was doing that I wasn't. James's working day compared with mine. He wasn't being lazy. He wasn't being lazy. He was actually doing something that hadn't even occurred to me. And the reason that James has spent all that time with the senior team was so that he could be seen. He could be seen, and he could communicate, and he could influence. And the senior managers weren't seeing all my hard work because they weren't seeing me at all. They were just seeing James. Now, you've probably had that experience when you're kind of like, boom. Oh, yeah. It suddenly dawned on me. It's like taking a different view, taking a different perspective. It's like standing at the top of a staircase and looking down, and suddenly you're like, oh, that's it. And you get a totally different answer. And at that moment, as I stood in my parents' garden on the gravelly driveway, I was staring at this rose bush, it dawned on me. Everything I wanted in my career, in my life, was not just about working hard. If I wanted all that hard work to count, it was as important to communicate, to influence, and make sure my work and expertise was seen by the people that make the decisions, by the senior team, by the people that weren't paying attention to me. And there I was, sort of slogging away in my job, delivering my projects, waiting for the world to come to me. When James, on the other hand, was being really proactive. He was being proactive, and he was being strategic. He wasn't waiting around for people to notice him. He wasn't waiting around for people to see if he was doing a good job or telling him that he was doing a good job. He was being seen by the senior team and getting ahead. He was executing a strategic plan to be seen every single day. So I decided that I was going to figure out how are you seen? How do you communicate and influence these people in the working environment? And I decided that I needed to transform myself from that slogging pro, that person working really, really hard in my job, to that strategic professional, that strategic pro. And that's what I did. And the first thing I did was I was like, okay, so how do I do this? And one of the things that I went back to was neurolinguistic programming. And the reason I went back to that was because I got this email saying, get the life that you want, get the life that you want. And actually I'd had experience of NLP in my early 20s, but I'd only used it for personal life, in my personal life. So I decided to go and train with one of the two co-founders, John Grinder. And I actually went back 3 times to the training, and I specialized in communication and influence. And I started taking some of those tools into my work experience. The other thing I did was I went and joined Toastmasters, which, if you don't know, is the international public speaking club. And I learned how to communicate and influence and be able to communicate and influence in sort of high pressured situation. And again, I use mentors and coaches to help me take that information and really apply it in my working, in my normal working day. Now, one of the things that I noticed was that actually you don't need to be a master of NLP, and you don't need to be a distinguished Toastmaster. Actually, you just need the 20% of these tools and skills that gives you 80% of the results. So that's what I did. I took these skills and these tools and these systems, and I started applying it down into a system that took the 20% of those tools that got you the 80% of the results. Because actually, when we're in our working day, we don't have the time to sort of take on all this new stuff. We just need to be able to add this layer of communication and influence on top of everything else we're doing, on top of our day jobs, on top of our lives. And that's what I did. And so I sort of put those things into a system that can be applied in the work environment. And after applying these communication tools and after applying all this stuff, everything changes. Everything changes. Yes, I took on more responsibility. I was managing multidisciplinary teams, communicating consistently up to C-suite level executives, and doing that on a regular basis. But it's much more than that. It shifts. It's a shift in who you are, who you believe you can be, who you believe in what you can do. And it's a core, deep down confidence and belief in yourself, in the value that you bring to the table. And it's liberating. It's liberating, and it's liberating for all those inner securities, because you feel light, you feel empowered, you feel relief, and you feel excited about those interactions that you're going to have, those opportunities that are going to come into your working life, because you really have clarity on everything you do. And you sort of go from the person that's always getting the job done, always slogging away, always working hard, to this person who is much more strategic about how they communicate, how they influence in the workplace. Somebody who raises their hand and goes for what they want. Somebody who believes that whatever they put their mind to, they can really go for it. Someone who is free to go for what they want. And it's like taking this sort of weight of, imposter syndrome off your shoulders, because you become this more strategic professional and you become much more engaged in the workplace. So I've talked about how I got to the system. I've talked about a bit of my background, and what we're here to do today is to talk about the 5 secrets to connecting and influencing others, which are sort of little bits of the system that you can use to really move to that strategic professional and the way you are and how you work and how you interact with others in the workplace. So I'm going to go through those 5 secrets just after I've taken a sip of water, sore throat, excuse me. So secret number one is meet people. Number one, even can't count on my fingers. Secret number one is meet people where they are. Meet people where they are. And if you've got a bit of paper, I would encourage you to start writing this down or interacting and asking questions in the chat, because you're going to take on much more of this information. So number one is meet people where they are. And what do I mean by that? When it comes to influencing others, everybody in the world is so busy. I don't think I've met anyone from years and years and years, I don't think I've ever met someone who's come up and said, hey, I've got loads of time, take your time, tell me exactly what you need, I've got all the time for you. Everyone in the workplace, everyone at home, we're all super, super busy. So you have to get people's attention. You have to get people's attention. And normally when you go into interactions with other people, we normally go in from our own perspective. And we start thinking about the interaction and the conversation from our own perspective. But if you want to influence people, if you want to get other people's attention, so they want to pay attention to what you're saying, you need to meet them where they are. And you do that by thinking about, what are their priorities? What are their pain points? What do they want? What are their experiences? What is it that they're interested in that you do? So it might be that there's somebody in the workplace who is senior to you and you're working on a project, you're on a tech project, and in your mind, you're thinking about delivery and you're thinking about getting to deliver the project. But the senior manager might be thinking about the client, perhaps the client relationship or the income and the finance. So although you're thinking about the same project, you're coming at it from two completely different perspectives. So actually to engage and influence other people, you meet them where they are first. And you think about what is a priority for them. And one of the best ways of really getting connection and engaging people is to think about, what are they challenged with? What are their pain points? What is it that is on their mind? Because when you talk to people about what's on their mind, what's the first thing they do? They actually like, yeah, that's right. You know, that's exactly where I am. I need to find solutions. What can you do to help me? So it makes sense to, instead of coming into the interactions with the people that you want to influence, to come into those interactions, think through who they are, what they're interested in, what is it that they're interested in, the conversation that you're having, and start from that place. Meet them where they are and not where you are. And it's a really good exercise if you're asking for a promotion or a pay rise, or you're going for another job, or you're going into another job interview, to actually go through this exercise of thinking very carefully about, what is it that the people I'm talking to, what are they specifically interested in? Because when you go into a job interview, for example, and you've thought through what are their priorities, and you know, even if you don't know them, you can think, you can research and have a look at what you think their priorities are. And if you do, and you start talking from that perspective, again, you're going to get so much more connection and engagement. So number one is meet people where they are. Secret number two, and I've got my fingers right now. Secret number two is match your communication style. Match your communication style with the people that you are communicating to, and the people you want connection and the people you want to influence. And one of the core rules of rapport and influence is that we like people like us. We like people like us. Now that actually means something at lots of different levels, and it means something from a very kind of physical level. It means something like we like people with the same tone, who talk like us, who look like us. We like people who have the same interests as us. We like people who read the same books as us at a very sort of high level, but we also connect and get rapport with people when they sound like us, when they talk like us. And you can actually match people's speed and tone, and you can match their posture. And when you do that, you really get rapport when you're communicating. Now, I'm going to give you two examples, and one of them is about my daughter. I have a daughter, I have a 14-year-old daughter, Rosie, And I sit at home, you know, I've been at work all day, I'm tired, I'm normally talking to people who communicate at a senior level. And my daughter comes home and I say to her, her name's Rosie, I say to Rosie, you know, how did your day go? Because I'm interested. How did your day go? Now, Rosie starts going into masses and masses and masses and masses of detail. And I'm her mother, so I'm interested in Rosie. But actually, sort of a few minutes in, I'm just kind of like, Rose, just give me the headlines. Just give me the headlines. I just want to know, you know, what happened, any, you know, what lessons were you in, what any sort of big actions that she took. And the thing is Rosie has a different communication style to me, and she's gone into so much detail, she's lost me. And I'm motivated to listen to her because I'm her mother and I should do that. So actually, if you think about that in a working environment, if somebody was doing the same thing, if they were a Rosie and going into vast amounts of detail, and sometimes people in the tech industry, especially, because in the tech industry, we're focused on, you know, we're focused on code, right? We're focused on code and we want to look into the, you know, it's a detailed job. When you're communicating up, it's very likely that the people that you're talking upwards to are much more high level and want to interact and communicate at more at a higher level, at a bigger level place. So if you start noticing what the person you're talking to, whether they are high level or whether they're detailed, whether they talk really quickly, whether they talk really slowly, whether they have a really high pitch, whether they have a really deep voice, when you start matching the person that you're interacting with, you start building rapport with them. And if you start building rapport with them, again, it's about interacting. It works at a conscious level and it works at a subconscious level. And when you start interacting with them and matching them and building that rapport, you're really going to get that connection with them. And you can go and test it out, and you can do it the other way around, so that when people are talking to you that you don't want to have connection with and you don't want to have rapport, you do the opposite and it kind of puts them off. So next time you go into a conversation or an interaction, start paying attention to how they talk, how quickly, how high, how loud. Start paying attention to their posture, matching up how they sit. Are they leaning in? Even when you're doing it online, you can match them. Are they sitting back? Are they crossing their arms? And you can match them. And what happens is you get this sort of subconscious rapport going on. And it's not like being liked. It's actually just a connection that you make. And so actually that really helps how you communicate when you're thinking about, you know, matching the other person in the way that they communicate. And as I said, like Rosie, you know, thinking about if you're communicating upwards, normally senior people are extremely busy with their work and they just need you to give them short, concise bits of information. So be thinking about, who am I speaking to? How do they communicate and how do I match that? And then again, you're going to get much more connection and have much more influence. So secret number 3, again, I'm just going to take a glass of water. Or a bit of water, excuse me. My throat is dry today, been doing too much talking. Secret number 3 is be confident in the way you communicate. Now, if you want to influence others, and connect with others, we are attracted to confident people. It's in our genes, because way back, many hundreds, thousands of years ago, the strongest, most confident people survived. And so you'd hang out with the strongest and most confident people. And again, it's natural for us to be attracted to confident people. And if you think about it, when you're interacting at work or at home, you'll notice that people in a meeting, the ones who are most confident when they communicate are the ones that maybe hold the room, and the ones that will have more authority in that meeting. So we're attracted to people who are more confident. And if you think about the opposite, when people aren't confident, you kind of don't buy into what they're saying. And you might not do it explicitly, but you don't buy in to what they're saying. If I had turned up to this session and I was sort of like, you know, I've kind of got some stuff that you might want. Yeah, you might listen to me, but you'd kind of automatically think, hold on a minute, if she doesn't believe in what she's saying, why should I believe in what she was saying too? And sometimes it's not intentional, but to have that influence and to have that connection and to really attract other people to what you're saying, you need to communicate with confidence. And how you do that and how you have confidence is a whole nother session and a whole nother seminar. But actually, one of the things that I think is really key when it comes to confident communication is to remember what goes on internally. So if inside you're feeling confident and calm and ready, is what you will project externally. And actually, what you project externally is really what people pick up. And when you're feeling confident, that's really what people experience and they see. And you pick it up on lots of different levels. So being able to communicate with confidence is key. And again, I'll tell you a really quick story. Remember running an event in the city in London, and we were on to our last presentation. There were two people at the front doing the last presentation, a female and a guy. And I was sat next to the senior partner in the room, and he was the guy that everybody wanted his attention. They wanted to communicate and influence him. And in fact, he was probably the person that those two presenters really wanted to talk to, although they were talking to the room. And just before they started their presentation, they were sort of stood at the podium, getting ready to present. And the senior partner leans over to me and says to me, "She looks petrified." And I was like, and I started looking at her, and I was like, yeah, it was written all over her face. And actually, I remember her feet, although she was facing the room, her feet were pointing to the door as if she wanted to run out at as quickly as she could. And it's not that we were being critical. It's not that we were being critical or nasty or anything like that. It's what the senior partner did next, which is important. And as they started their presentation, the next thing the senior, and they sort of got their slides up, the next thing the senior partner did was this. As they started talking, he picked up his mobile phone, and he didn't do it just did it without thinking. He picked up his mobile phone and he started going through his emails and answering his texts and things like that. And it wasn't that he was being rude. That's just automatically what he did. And so before they had even started the presentation, they'd lost the most important person in the audience, because he had sort of subconsciously gone, oh, this isn't going to be so important. I'll just get on with my day job. So it's important that when you communicate with confidence. And as I said, there's lots of confidence strategies that we don't have time to go into today. But just remember, what is going on inside is what you project outside. So if you can project, if you can feel confident, if you can shift your body and your breathing and everything, and you can, come into those interactions with confidence, feeling confident, that's what you're going to project to the external world. So secret number 4, use certainty in language. And I'm losing my voice there. Use certainty in your language. Now, oftentimes we don't notice the words that we use sort of very, very consciously, but other people kind of pick up how you say what you say. And if people ask you a question, let me give you an example. If your boss or your manager or somebody in the workplace or someone says to you, and you're working on a project, you're writing some code, whatever you're doing, and they say to you, so when will that be ready by? They just want to know when, when you're going to have that ready, for instance. And if you want to respond with certain specific language, with certainty in your language, if you respond to things like, yeah, we think it's going to be, we think we're going to be ready to deliver this by, end of play on Friday. There's a difference between that and saying, we're going to be delivering this at end of play Friday. And it's the same answer, but there is slight difference in the way I say it. I say the second phrase with much more certainty. I think we're going to have it ready by end of play Friday, or we are going to have the project delivered by end of play Friday. And what has most influence on the people that you're talking with? They're like, okay, great. If you're going to have it ready and you have certainty in your voice and you're saying with confidence, we're going to have it ready by end of play Friday, that's great. But if you're saying things like, yeah, we think we're going to have it by end of play Friday, then all of that kind of, are you? And what happens if you don't? And oh my gosh, should I be planning around something else? So that influence and that connection and that confidence in how you communicate is gone by the words that you're using. And it's very, very, very subtle. And you can hear it in people's language if you listen very carefully to people who don't feel, against that internal confidence and communicating externally by being certain in your language when you communicate. So that's secret number 4. Use certainty in your language. Secret number 5, and this is a kind of more global secret, but I think it's one of the most important things when you want to connect and influence people. And when I go through this presentation, if I could see you and interact with you, I'd ask you, guess what it is. I always say, guess what it is. And people can never guess this secret number 5. But secret number 5 is be front of mind. Be front of mind if you want to connect and influence other people. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you remember, we were talking about that there are people in the workplace, especially the senior team, the managers, the people that you want to influence, the people that are going to help you get further in your career. They are so busy with their lifestyles, they're not paying attention to you. They're not paying attention to you because they are in their worlds, they have their own priorities. So what you need to do is put in place a plan, build what we call it at Activate Your Career Live, is put in place an activation plan. And in that activation plan is actually identifying the people that you want to influence, building a kind of profile around who they are and what they're interested in, and then working out how you can communicate and influence them. Because when you're front of mind, and being front of mind means communicating, hearing what you have to say, how, what you can do, what experience you have, how you can help in their priorities. And being front of mind with the right people that matter mean that you're going to have that connection and influence. And it really helps sort of build your reputation at work, because the people who are making the decisions, in the sort of more senior levels in the company, you're front of mind. So they're like, oh yeah, Laura, yeah, she did that interactive TV project. We know that if we need that expertise, we're going to bring her in. And if you remember about James at the beginning of this session, I was talking about me and James. And James, being a strategic pro, he was constantly communicating with those people, with the people that really helped him progress his career. And he was there because he was talking with them. He was interacting with them at every opportunity he had. And that slogging Laura, who was focused 100% on delivering her work, she was so focused on delivering her work that she wasn't visible at all. So when it came to that interaction, the senior team, I'm sure if they had visibility of the stuff that I was doing, they would have noticed and been interested in it, but they didn't know I was really there. And so James was the one that was strategic about his communication. So number 5 of the secrets to connect and influence others is be front of mind. And remember what I said at the beginning in secret number 1, which was meeting people where they are so that you can connect with them. And actually, all of these kind of secrets, all, you know, when you use them together, really help you connect and communicate and influence others, because they all interlink in how you interact and connect with people in the world that you live in. And whether that's at work or whether that's at home, all of these secrets are about being able to make that connection, have that influence. So secret number 1, meet people where they are. Secret number 2, match their communication style. Secret number 3, be confident in the way you communicate. Secret number 4, I get my fingers muddled up, use certainty in your language. And secret number 5, be front of mind. And if you do those 5 things in your working life, you're going to be able to connect and influence others, but you're also going to be able to really move into that more strategic professional. Whatever you do, whatever role or job you have, it's about moving into that more strategic professional in the workplace, which means that you can fast track your career. And you know, I invite you to ask questions, and I'll take all the questions in a minute, but it's really about sort of deciding to take on these tools and use these tools and interact in the workplace so that you can progress the career in the direction that you want. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to take a sip of water. And I'm if there are questions that have come in, I can pick up those questions. Faiza, I don't know if you're still, yeah, hey.
Yeah, I'm here. Hello. So we do have quite a lot of questions and a few comments for you also. Let me just go through them. So, yeah. So Sahar is saying that secret number 2 is great, but it is quite tough to implement, where you're talking about copying people's communication style.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit more explanation from you, help her.
So you broke up a bit, but I think what you were saying is Sarah was asking how to match communication style. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it like everything, it takes practice. It's a skill, it's a tool. But actually, what I would start off with is just really breaking it down and simplifying what it is that you're doing and matching. It's a bit like riding a bike, right, or driving a car. You actually start noticing other people's communication styles. And I think the first thing to do is start paying attention to how different people communicate. Things like their tone, their voice, things about their posture. And again, lots of people, you know, we're communicating online, but we can still see how people are sitting, how people are leaning in, leaning out, and just start picking up on a couple of things and start matching that. And start noticing the differences in the way people communicate, in the way people hold themselves. And actually, when you start paying attention to it, you really notice the differences in how everyone communicates, both with their voice, with their tone, with the speed, but also with their posture. And actually, one of the exercises I like to do with my clients, just to kind of get this in their minds, is when you walk down the street and you're walking down the street, start noticing as people come towards you, the different in the way people walk and hold themselves and their posture. And what you start noticing is that everyone is very different. Everyone moves and interacts very differently. So I would say we don't have time to go into masses of detail here, but just start, number one, noticing the differences in the communication styles that people have, and then just pick off a couple of things that you can start doing and, matching, so that you can really notice where you get more rapport with people. And even in the answers that you give as well, when you're communicating to people and they just want a really short answer, and you start going into a sort of 10-minute detail answer, like my daughter, just thinking about making matching your communication style to them, again, because it helps build rapport.
Great.
I hope that makes it simpler.
Yeah, I think it definitely does. I think she's also okay. So Sahar is saying another comment from her that secret number 4 is very impactful,
Yeah.
using certainty in your communication. And then she's saying that, can you please elaborate being front of mind with an example?
Yes. So I guess the example to give actually is the example I gave at the beginning of the session. And being front of mind just means that you are people that are making you can't be front of mind in everyone in the world, but by sort of identifying some of the key people in your workplace, and it might be just one person, it might be a couple of people, by identifying them, by identifying who they are and thinking about, how can I interact with them? How can I get in front of them? How can I make sure that they know that I'm there? They know the work that I'm doing. They know the effort that I'm putting in. They know the value that I bring to the table. And if you think about what I was explaining at the beginning with me and James back those years, the way that James was doing it was that he was going in and having a coffee, or dropping in in their offices. Now, that was quite a long time ago. You might not have the access to those senior people that you want to be front of mind, but it might be, and I'll give you some examples, making sure that when you are in meetings with them, that you make sure that you say something and that you contribute to the conversation. It might be that you have a project that is going to be really interesting for them, or it's relevant to them, because maybe they're really interested in diversity and you're working on a project that has got some data related to diversity and inclusion, and that they're interested in that. And it might be that you set up a meeting, or you say, could I have 5 minutes? And one of the things you can do is you can say to them, could I have 5 minutes of your time so that I could ask your advice and get your feedback and get your thoughts? And most people in the working environment are, unless they're so busy they can't see you and they'll probably defer you to someone else, most people are quite flattered by people being asked for help. And so they'll give you some time in their diary, and you can sort of go, hey, I'm working on this project, really want to get your input. You get their input, you make the connection, you're front of mind, and then you might say to them, now, is it okay if I come back in a week or two and give you an update? Or I'm going to drop you an email and let you know how I'm getting on, or how things are going. So it's about thinking, how do you consistently get in front of mind for them and interact with them, whether it's online, offline, whether it's email, whether it's in meetings, whether it's asking advice, whether it's, can we have a coffee? It's just getting visible in the workplace with them, so that you're front of mind, and so that they not only see you, but they understand the experience and the value that you bring to the table. And if you can bring that value to the table and match and meet them where they are, so that how you are talking, how you articulate is relevant to them, then you're going to get connection, then you're going to have influence, then you're going to be able to build that relationship and develop that relationship.
Okay, great. So for your first question, Sahar is saying, thank you for explaining. I'm going to try if this works for me. And for second question, she's saying, okay, I get it now. Thank you. That is a very good point and my favorite one for now.
Okay, brilliant.
Great. So we have another question. This is coming from Hina. She's asking what exactly is NLP and how does it help in the workplace?
So I didn't explain it. So NLP is something called neuro-linguistic programming, and it was founded by a guy called John Grinder and Richard Bandler. And it was actually in the 70s. They were in California, and they were looking into how people interact and how people communicate and behave. And actually, it was in psychotherapy, I think, where they originally were modeling it and practicing it. But actually, what it means to us today, what it means to you and me, is actually it's a set of tools. It's a set of tools on how you can communicate and influence other people, and also how can you communicate and perform better. I was originally attracted to finding out more about it because I went to a seminar and they were talking about how, if you wanted to be good at something, you had to model someone who was really good at it. And even if you modeled some of their behaviors, then you would always raise your level and up your game. So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, it's literally a set of tools that you can use to help you perform better and to help you manage your mind better, but also how to communicate and influence other people. And the best thing to do actually is probably Google it. And I mean, it's been around for 50 years. So there's huge amounts of different fields and different areas of it.
Got it. So there is a comment, kind of like a question also by Shamim. She's saying that, so people who are confident in holding the room, sometimes they are annoying and don't give room to others. I have seen that really confident people actually hold back and speak right at the end and fill in the gaps. What do you think about that?
I think that you get lots of different people in different environments. And I think that being confident, there are some people that you meet in the world who are super confident, who hold the room, own the room. There's lots of sort of words around that, and perhaps take up all of the airspace. And it's not that I would encourage anyone to become sort of annoying people like that, but actually, I actually think confidence is having that internal confidence is important. So before you even interact with other people, it's about finding the confidence in yourself, finding your belief and how you feel good about yourself. And when you kind of really take on board that confidence and you are walking into work and interacting with people feeling like, you know, I feel good about this, I'm confident in what I'm saying, that is attractive to other people, not in an arrogant way, not in a I want everyone to listen to me way, but in a way that, like, I'm confident in what I do, I'm confident in the value I can interact with people, I'm confident in how I can serve other people. And I think that confidence is just something that is attractive to other people because we're interested in what they have to say. And it's not that we're not interested in people who don't have as much confidence. We are. But actually, again, we have to make decisions. We have to listen to people. We have to decide whether we're going to take notice of people. And when you're confident and when you want to influence others, that confidence is a kind of automatic mechanism that means they're confident in what they're saying. They know what they're talking about. I should pay attention to this. And I think that it's not that we shouldn't listen to everyone. We should. But we can actually, and again, this is kind of where the NLP side of things comes in, we can actually change how we communicate and how we express ourselves by shifting our breathing, our physiology. We change what's going through our head so that we can communicate with more confidence. So it's not changing personalities, it's just about having that confidence in the way that you communicate, in the way that you are, so that you kind of interact and you draw people to that.
Got it. I think that was a great explanation. We have 3 more questions.
Okay.
Let's see if we can finish that in the next 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
Yeah. So the next question is that, so in workplaces, we do see there are people who are difficult or toxic generally. So what advice do you have for us in terms of when it comes to dealing with difficult people?
Dealing with difficult people, I think there are difficult people in every workplace. And actually, I'm working with a client at the moment who has a very difficult boss. And ultimately, you can't get away from interacting with difficult people. And so you have to, I think first and foremost, you have to really focus on yourself and how you can interact in those situations so that you don't walk away and think, I'm so annoyed, it's really upsetting me. And I know, and I've been in the same situations where you know, people are just difficult and you take it home at night and it bugs you and it's on your mind and things like that. So I think number one is to try as best you can to let some of that flack go past you and not take that on for you. I think also difficult people generally have their own agenda. They have whatever it is, and sometimes it's better just to let them air that agenda and then focus in on exactly what the actions are. And in the example with my client, she's dealing with her boss who like comes in and is like, why haven't you done this? Why haven't you done that? And the way that we're never going to change her boss. She's never going to stop being difficult. She's never going to stop sort of blowing hot and cold air all the time. But actually, my client, what she's done is she has set up a meeting with this boss, who's the difficult person, every Monday, and she's trying to channel in all the communication around that meeting. And what that does is that you're kind of getting an agreement with that person to say, right, this is what you and I are responsible, or this is what I'm responsible, and this is how I'm going to report into you. Have I got everything? Is there anything missing? Do you need to know anything else? Is there something that you want, something else you want me to report on? Is there another way you want me to communicate? And what happens is you start sort of developing the behavior so that all the interaction is in that session or in that interaction. Now, does that mean they're not going to be difficult? Does that mean that they're not going to lose their cool in other situations? No, it doesn't. But actually what it does is it kind of benchmarks the communication that you have with that person. So when they're like, oh, why haven't you done this? Or I want you to do something different, or, you know, blah, 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 blah. You can say, well, you know, we did have that meeting this week and we went through all of this. And if there is another priority that you've got, I will add it to our list, or I'll add it to our priorities. But just remember, that's what we've agreed. Now, as I said, it's not going to turn that person into someone who's perfectly behaved, but actually what it does is it means that you're taking more control on yourself and you're becoming more confident in the way that you interact. And actually, most of the time, when people are screaming and shouting and being difficult, when they get that person who's extremely confident in what they're doing and takes a bit more control about it, that tends to fizzle out a bit. And even when they are very difficult, you know, I always think you almost imagine their stuff and just let it go past you, and focus on exactly what you need to do and what the actions you need to take and what the responsibilities that you have as best you can. But I don't think you're ever going to avoid difficult people. But I
Absolutely.
think I'd sort of point all the secrets of communication and connection and influence applies to difficult people, right? Meet them where they are, match them with the communication style, be confident, use certainty, and maybe not be front of mind as much as you don't want, if you don't want to have that interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sabine is saying that when you're talking about difficult people, do you mean that we need to set clear boundaries with them? Is that what you mean?
I do. I actually think that is a very good thing to start with, personally, in the experience that I've had, and I've dealt with lots of difficult people. I think you have to set boundaries, but also get agreement to what those boundaries are. So you're not going to walk in and say, right, we're going to set boundaries. You're never going to come in and scream and shout or whatever. But you actually, what you're doing is you're getting their commitment and their buy-in in the way that you interact with them. And therefore, you've got this kind of benchmark of how the interactions go on going forward. And as I said, it's not that they're going to start behaving amazingly, but actually you've got that benchmark that you can really use as a way of minimizing the disruption to your work, to your day.
Got it. Absolutely. So another question from Hina. She's saying that do you think that all of this influencing and working good alongside with people applies to extroverted people only? What advice do
No.
you have for people who feel overwhelmed by meetings and other gatherings?
It's people who are more introverted, you mean? Sorry,
Yeah, absolutely. So people who feel overwhelmed when it comes to meeting with other people and who do not like to speak in public.
Now, I cannot confess that I have ever been introverted myself. That would be untrue. But actually, the people I work with are mainly, they're either very introverted or they are slightly, they don't want to do all this communication stuff, but they know that to get to the next level, to get, to advance their career, they understand that there is that layer of communication that gives them the expertise and the ability to interact at a more, at a more senior level. Now, that doesn't mean that you instantly become extroverted overnight, and I don't think you ever do become an extrovert. But that doesn't mean you can't apply these strategies. It just means that the steps that you might take might be smaller to start with. It might be that you don't walk into a meeting and you're like, right, I'm going to chair the meeting. It might be the first thing that you do in that meeting is you introduce yourself, and you do it in a way that you feel more confident and more comfortable with. And then once you're comfortable with that, the next thing is that you might add some of your viewpoints and add some contribution to the interaction. And again, it might be that you just take baby steps, but you've got this kind of, this is where I want to get to. This is why I understand that I need to start taking these baby steps, and I need to come out and show the value that I have. Because I think when I work with people who are more introverted, they've got so much value to give. They've got so much, so much to give, so much to say, that if they can just start taking some of those steps towards being able to communicate, and the changes you see are very, very quick, and you sort of go, oh, okay, right, I'm okay, and I did that, and now what's next? So I would say that it's a process, and it's a process of understanding that communication unlocks so many doors for you. And if you're not running through those doors because you feel like that's uncomfortable, that you just take those smaller steps, and you eventually develop that muscle to be able to be more, to want to communicate and influence more.
Got it. So this is the last question. Are you okay if we take a couple of more minutes?
Sure, no problem. It's earlier for me than for you, so if you're okay, I'm okay.
No worries. So this is the question from I forgot her name. I'm sorry, but she just said that when we say influence, what exactly do we mean by influence?
By influence, what do we mean by influence?
Yes.
Right. Well, I think it probably depends on the situation, but I think what we mean by influence is being able to connect, being able to engage others, being able to get people interested in what we do. And I know that there's a sort of view that do these influencers go around and do bad things to us? I don't think it's that at all. I think that if your intentions are good and fair and positive, being able to get someone's attention, especially in this world where no one's got any time, no one's got any attention, we're all overloaded with everything, and being able to influence them in a way that gets them a benefit or gets them to take part in something or gets them to take that tiny step because they're introverted and they don't want to be communicating out to anyone else. If you can influence and inspire other people, then that's got to be a good thing. So influence with the positive intention is to get people's attention, connect with people, to engage them and to get them on board with whatever it is that you are passionate about or whatever it is that you want to do.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing some wonderful lessons with all of us. I see a lot of engagement on the live video. I'm going to send you the link also if you want to
Thank
reshare
you
it
so
from
much.
your page. And really appreciate your time. And if you have anything at the end, any advice for the women working in tech, please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. And I think that when I started my career in tech many years ago, I was literally the only female in the workplace who understood any tech, and I love the fact that more and more women are working in tech. And I think that we, as women in tech, I think that we can really make a difference and add value. And these communication tools and strategies and techniques, the system that we teach in the masterclass that we do, it's about really getting to the level that you really want to, and being inspired and being able to really go as far as you can in your career. And I think it is something that every woman in tech should be doing, because we can really make a difference in the world. And I think that having some diversity in the way things work and the way things are thought and the way that we interact and do stuff in the world is critical. So I think by adding this layer of communication and by adding this layer of being able to understand how you can really get to the next level is critical. And I wish everyone the best of luck in the tech industry. And oh, sorry, I was just going to say, and if as I said, I mentioned the masterclass that we run, where it's really about going to the next level, getting to the next title. And if you're feeling frustrated or overworked, underpaid, and you want to progress your career, want to get to the next level, then come and join the masterclass. It's free, and it is at www.activatemycareerlive.com. And again, we go through the system of really helping you go from this sort of hardworking professional with all that value to add, to being able to use that hard work and inspire people around you and do whatever it is that you want to do. So that's www.activatemycareerlive.com.
Great. Thank you for sharing this, Laura. I'm going to add it to the description also, so that people can just click on it and reach out to you. Again, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It was lovely learning from you. And if I get any more questions or any leads for you, I'm going to send them your way.
Please do, and I'm very happy to answer any other questions. So I can either do that in the Facebook chat or anywhere. Just post them in there, and I'll pick them up. I'll have a look for them. And thanks very much for having me.
Great. Take care. Have a great
Thank
day.
you.
Bye.
Bye.